cognizant of all your time as well. So thank you for joining us. Good afternoon. My name is Bill Sarbuck. I'm the supervisor of the Office of Apprenticeship Contracts and Grants Unit. All of you are recipients of our FY23 Youth Transitions to Work Grant. I know we had a quick get together back in December, but today our plan is more programmatic and detail oriented. And so what we'd like to do is provide you guys with uh, the user guides for the completion of your contracts, as well as the completion of your monthly activity and expenditure reports. I know we've been meeting with you each individually to go over any edits or changes or questions that we had in reference to budget, based on recommendations that came from panel members and from within the unit ourselves. So we've kind of discussed this a little bit in preparation for today's meeting with you, but we're gonna really get into the nitty gritty today, show you guys these user guides, and then after today, the first step will be for you to have your contract signed off on. For all of you who are ready, I know we have a couple of you that were waiting on a few things. But once those contracts are signed, then you'll be able to start doing your monthly activity and expenditure reports in our new IGX database. For those of you who have not been in the IGX database or haven't been in there since the application, your applications should start to show up back in there in your My Tasks bin, and you'll start to be able to utilize them once the contracts are signed off on by both you guys and us. But for the time being, initially at least, we'll go through these user guides, and we'll hopefully answer any questions that you guys have, and prepare you for the next step in this grant application for our FY23 Youth Transitions to Work grant. So with that being said, let's get into these user guides and go through them page by page and just make sure that they're clear. You can skip to the next slide, Tammy. Okay, so initially, as with any of our grants, the first thing you're going to have to do is log into our IGX database. The web address is at the top. In the past, you were logging into Sage. This is IGX. It is the same company that we utilize in order to get this database to you, but they are different websites. So please be sure that you're logging into the new website, the IGX website at njdol.intelligrants.com. Once you go there, you'll log in with your username and password. If you have any issues with that username and password, please reach out to us at apprenticeshipunit@dol.nj.gov, and we can try to figure out exactly what is causing your issues. So once you log in, the first thing you're going to need to do is find your application. Your application is the starting point for everything that you need to complete. So that should be found under My Tasks. You'll click on the name, which is listed with right below under the word name, and it will have your application number, which is also your contract number. You'll click on that and it'll bring you into your application. Once in to your application, you're going to want to scroll down on the left-hand side in that blue section where all of the application pages are listed. You're going to scroll down and find the section that's titled Contract. Under your contract section, you'll have a number of pages that need to be reviewed and some of them that need to be signed. You'll start with the contract summary page. You'll save that page once you get to it. Then once you review it, then you'll save it. Then you'll go to the federal and state funding sheet. You only need to review that page. We actually complete that page on our side. Then you'll review the contract details page, check the box at the bottom of the page and sign off on it. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead of the slides. You'll go to the contract details page. You'll review the sections within it. there are two hyperlinks within the contract details page. One is for your deliverables, which is in your application. It's your summary of expected outcomes. The other one is your budget details. That will be your cost summary and all your schedules. You can click on the hyperlinks within the contract details page, and it'll bring you back to those pages without having to review them within the application itself. When you've completed reviewing the contract details and you're good with everything that's listed there, you'll check the box at the bottom stating that you certify that you've read and agree to all the terms and conditions, and save the page. When you save the page, it's automatically going to sign the page and date the page. This has to be done by your authorized official, which is also the person who's authorized to sign off on contracts by your organization. Okay, it cannot be done by any other staff. So once that checkbox, and the page should only be saved by your authorized official. Once you're done with that, you'll then move on to the next page, which is your standards, assurances and certifications. These are basically your federal guidelines that you're required to follow for funding. Any federal laws that exist. So at the bottom of the standards, assurance, and certifications, you're going to find a section where it asks for a physical address. This is the physical address of where services are going to be provided. You'll list that information. If you have additional work sites for your program, you'll check that checkbox that says if there are any workplaces on file that are not listed here. And then you'll check the checkbox to duly authorize that you are the applicant and that you certify the information that you've entered. Once again, this has to be done by the authorized official because it will populate with a signature. And then you'll enter the date in which that's being signed off on at the bottom. Once you enter the date, check the box and enter this information, you'll save the page. And like I said, it has to be done by the authorized official or the person authorized to sign off on things, and that will populate a signature on the standards assurances document. The final page that needs to be completed is the general provisions page. You'll read through the general provisions, make sure that you're clear and understand everything that's required of your organization. And then once again, that authorized official or authorized signer of the contract will check the checkbox and save the page. This will once again add a electronic signature to the page based on their username and being logged into the system, and it will date it for the date and time which they approved and the page and saved the page. Next slide. The final thing that we ask of you to check is the vendor information page. So for those of you who are familiar with billing or getting paid as an organization, the vendor information page is important because this is what tells us where to send money within your organization. It should be pre-filled out based on information that we have on file for your organization, but we ask that you check that vendor number, make sure it looks correct to you. If there's something that you're not sure of, you can check with NJ Start and see whether or not there's something you think is wrong. If there is anything wrong, you can contact us. But as of right now, the vendor numbers that are listed there are basically the vendor numbers that were used for your previous grant with us. So I'm going to guess there aren't going to be many changes, but please check it. If changes are necessary, let us know. Check with your NJ Start account and make sure that you have the proper, what we call location code, which is those last two numbers on the vendor number. You'll see the dash, and then there's two numbers that are after it. You just got to check and make sure that that location code is correct for your organization. But ultimately, you'll come to this page, check it, make sure it looks good. And if it looks good to you, then you can save the page and you're all set. And then you can, the final thing you'll want to do within the contract process is to just quickly go back to your contract summary page, make sure everything still looks accurate, and resave that page at this point, just because you've possibly made some changes to other pages and you want to make sure that everything is reflective properly on the summary page. Once all the pages have been signed and everything is completed, the final step will be for you to change the status of your document or in this case for us, it's basically to submit your contract to the department so that we can review the pages, make sure they're accurately completed, and then put it through for signature by our commissioner. So you could do that by, once again, on the left-hand side of your screen, the blue section, you'll scroll all the way down to the bottom and find the heading that's called status options. You'll click the arrow if there's nothing listed there, because there's a little arrow next to the word status options. But if it's already opened, you'll see the options of contract negotiations or application canceled. Please don't choose application canceled. Um, please choose contract negotiations. That will send it to us so that we can review everything, make sure everything looks good, and then get it into our process for signature by our commissioner. Once you've completed this step, and we have your application, we will, your application is back with us with your contract signed off on. You can then begin to start completing your December, January activity and expenditure reports, which will be combined for your first month's report. As you're all aware, this grant started on December 1st. Because of some testing that we were still doing on the application, on the activity reports and the expenditure reports within this IGX database, we didn't want to give it to you with the possibility there would be some issues. We tested it a little more thoroughly and made sure that everything was working properly, so that now when you do your first activity and expenditure reports, you'll do a December and January combined as a January report. You will not complete a December report, December 2022 report. You'll just complete a January expenditure and activity report for the 2 months combined. It's just easier. I don't want to waste your time to have to do 2 reports separately. It's not fair to you guys. So we'll do it that way. Um, so with that being said, I want to leave this open and make sure we don't have any questions in reference to the contract process before we move into the activity reports and the expenditure reports. If you have any questions or comments, raise your hand, put something in the chat, uh, unmute yourself, and please feel free to speak up now. We'll give you a minute or so. All right. You guys are making me feel good about myself. It doesn't happen very often. I have got kids, and, um, Alrighty, so just to ensure that we don't hold anybody up,
Excuse me, I had one question.
sure.
Back to the vendor number. Is that just our EIN number? Is that what the vendor number is on the vendor
So the
information
vendor
page?
number is your EIN in some capacities. It depends on how you guys are registered with NJ Start.
Okay.
So NJ Start is Treasury basically, and it's where they hold and make payments out to you guys. It's funny, you would think that all the state government agencies would actually make payments ourselves, but we don't. We put all of our stuff through Treasury, and then Treasury makes payments to you. So you register with NJ Start, and your organizations are all registered with NJ Start at this point, obviously, because we've granted with you in the past. But that vendor number is basically, in some cases, you have what's called a V number, which is like a number that's assigned to you by Treasury. And in other cases, it still uses your FEIN number. So I don't want to say it's definitely your FEIN number. It depends on the way your accounts are set up with NJ Start. But that V number is just like a Treasury assigned number that's for your organization. If that's the case and you have a V number, it's just going to list the V number. If you don't have a V number as an organization, then it'll list your FEIN and then a location code at the end, which is like I said, there's 2 digits at the end of your FEIN. That location code is basically a code that just tells us where checks are delivered to.
Okay.
So an easy answer is yes, it will be your FEIN in some cases, but the more detailed is that it could be a V number as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem. All right, anybody else? Okay, So we're going to jump into the user guide that we have for our activity reports and expenditure reports. You're all familiar with doing these, I'm sure, in some capacities because we've done them always. The reports haven't changed necessarily in the detail in which we require you to provide us, nor have they changed necessarily in the process. So as is always been, they're still due on the 15th of every month for the month previous. Like I said, your first month for our grant for this program year will be actually a two-month program. We are aware that you might not be able to get them in by the 15th on the first month. That is completely understood. We will be just as understanding with you guys as you guys have been with us and waiting for this second month. We just ask that if you need some additional time to let Lauren know, Lauren Kremper DiFilippo, who is your program assistant for the YTTW program, or you can also just email it to the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address, so that she's aware of when you anticipate being able to get those reports into her, and she's not bugging you and asking you about it. So we do ask that you do that. But beyond that, we're going to be completely understanding and give you the time necessary in order to get those reports submitted to us. And obviously available if you guys have any questions or need any assistance during the process. So with that being said, we'll get started on the user guide. So as I said, the grants will be the reports will be due on the 15th of every month. So by February 15th, it's anticipated that we'll receive your January report. Then by March 15th, we'll receive your February report, and so on and so forth going forward. Next, please. Once again, we'll start with logging in. I don't know that I'll get as detailed into this now as I did on the first time we had this slide, but logging into the system is the starting point of completing any work within our IGX database. Once again, you'll have to locate your application. Now, if your contract has been signed, it will show up in, if your contract has been signed by our commissioner, it'll show up in your My Tasks. If it's still waiting signature by our commissioner, you're going to have to look for it through the searches tab at the top there. So we're going to switch to the next page because it gives you a little more detail. You'll click on the searches. You'll type into the under type youth transitions to work YTTW FY23. You don't have to type the whole sentence out necessarily, but something that will make it search and find the youth transitions to work grant program. Once you do that, you'll click search and it'll pull up your application. It's only going to pull up yours because it's going to be looking for something that's under your name. And once it does, you'll just click on the hyperlink to your application, which is listed under the word name or the heading name. Okay. So once you're into your application, this will bring you into your application. You're going to scroll down using that left side panel, the blue side panel, and find the heading related documents. It's the same way it was before, except before the related documents and messages were in the top right-hand corner. Now it's going to be on the left-hand side, and it'll be all the way at the bottom under status options. You'll click the arrow if the arrow is pointed towards the word related documents, and it'll open up any documents that you've either submitted in the past or the ability for you to initiate a new report. If you're looking to initiate a report, you'll click on Initiate Related Doc. Next page. What that does is it brings you into a panel that allows for you to decide and tell us what type of document you want to initiate. So you'll click on Available Documents, and under that you'll find the month active and year activity report that you're looking to complete. So For this case, you'll be looking to complete your YTTW January activity report 2023. So you'll search for that one, click on it, and then click on create. When it's the February, you'll just go in there and you'll look up YTTW February activity report 2023, and you'll hit create. Once you do that, it brings you into an I agree page. It wants to make sure that you really want to do this. So you can say a prayer and hope for the best and decide whether or not you want to do it. And once you've come to the conclusion that you don't have a choice because they pay you for your job and you have to do what they tell you to do sometimes, you'll choose I agree, you'll choose agree, and it will open the activity report for the month of January. If you didn't want to keep your job and you were really unhappy, you can choose decline, but I don't suggest that. We like you all. Once you choose accept, it's going to open and create your activity report. Your activity report will have its own list of options in its panel on the left-hand side. Those, you'll notice, those look very familiar. Those are the same pages that you had in your previous YTTW activity reports. You're going to click on each one individually and complete them. We'll show you them a little more in a second. Once you've completed them and saved them, you'll notice that little box that's next to them in blue will actually have a check mark in it to tell you that it's been done. But you got to go through each page individually and save it for that check mark to show up. So if you don't have any new participants for a month, make sure you open it and just save the page. It'll put a check mark in the box for you. Same for quality partners. So just for purposes of, if you are one of those people like me who likes to go in and start something but not finish it necessarily, maybe never, but in this case, if you were to start it and then go out and you need to come back later and do it, when you log in, the activity report will be in your My Tasks. So you can find it right in your My Tasks. You'll just click on the name listed under it in My Tasks, and that'll pull up and show you where you left off last on completing the report. So I think I already went over this, so we can skip to the next one. So the first page that you're going to complete, if you go in order, which sometimes I would suggest, not always, but sometimes, is the monthly reporting page. You'll notice it looks exactly the same. It might be a little bit prettier. We do try to make things pretty every once in a while. Usually we just make them harder, but in this case, I don't believe this will be any harder. You'll see the current month's reporting period is what you're going to enter information on. If it was a month in which you had previous month's reports, it would show your previous month's reporting information on the left-hand side there. And then the cumulative will calculate the previous and the current in the right-hand corner. You'll see a section where we're asking for you to provide us with your consortium partner meeting information. If you didn't have one, you can check the box. It will ask you to either check the box saying you didn't have one or to tell us when one occurred, and to upload the minutes. And we do ask that you notify us on a monthly basis when you anticipate that next monthly meeting occurring, and then completing the questions at the bottom. Once you've completed the page, make sure you save the page. Please don't ever forget to hit save, because I don't want you to lose your work and then you ask me, can you please find it for me? I can't. It doesn't exist. It didn't exist until you hit save. So please be sure to hit save. Once you've hit save, then you'll go back to that panel on the left-hand side and click on the next page you'd like to complete. For our sake, we're going to go in order, and that page will be your participant list. So your participant list, it does look a little bit different, huh? But it isn't different. The information is the same. One thing you will notice that is a little bit different is your unique IDs are no longer on you to create. The unique ID is going to be created by the database. So ultimately, you're going to enter, if you have a page name, so if, let's say you do your participant list based on classes or based on partners, you would enter your page name at the top, complete your first participant's information. You're going to need to complete all sections but the AOSOS. If you don't have your AOSOS number, it's okay. You can save the participant without that, but you cannot save a participant without all the other sections completed. Once you've entered the person and hit save, if you have additional participants to add, you will use that plus sign that's got a big square around it in the corner. That plus sign is exactly what you're thinking. It adds an additional person. Once you hit that plus sign, it'll create a whole nother box that looks just like this, except it'll be blank, obviously. And then you'll enter the new information for the second participant. I believe that it allows you to do this for up to about 20 participants per page. And then once you get to the maximum and it's no longer allowing you to add any participants, or if you needed to create a separate list, you will use the add button up in the top right hand corner. You'll see, excuse me, next to the save button, an add button. You can still add an additional participant list page if need be. But just be careful to make sure that if you don't need these participants to be on separate pages, um, that you're using that plus sign rather than the add button at the top. Once you've completed the page, click save. Then you could navigate on that left-hand side panel to the next page and click on that, which in our case will be your quality partner page. This page doesn't look really any differently than what you guys had in the past. Excuse me. You'll choose the drop down for quality partner type, choose what kind of a quality partner this is, and enter the information about them. Once again, if you have additional partners to list, you'll use the plus sign at the end. If you need an additional quality partner page, you'll use the add button in the top corner. Next page. So here's something that you guys might find fun. Quality placement and activity page still exists. I'm sorry. The good thing is though, it auto creates the pages. You no longer have to create a page for each participant. Once you enter the participants on the participant list and save that page, it will auto create a quality placement and activity page for them. So you will click on the quality placement and activity and it will pull up a list of their pages on the right hand side. You'll then choose each person that you need to make updates to on a monthly basis and complete your updates to their quality placement and activity section of the report. Initially, obviously, you might just be providing us with their start dates and statuses possibly on where they are with things, but you'll provide us with the additional detail of exactly what the page requires related to their quality partners, any certifications that they receive, or possibly any educational credits that they receive as well. But all that information will be collected on each individual person, just like it has been in the past. If you have given them additional training, you'll notice that there's a plus sign next to that. Can you run your mouse over that section for me real quick, Tammy? Yeah, so you see the plus sign there now. You can add additional training if necessary. So if they receive multiple training programs for that person, you can hit the plus sign, it'll add a second box and you can add that information. But we are still only capturing one quality outcome per participant. Main reasoning is we want to make sure that we are properly tracking your participants, specifically individually. And that's how we do that. Next page. So if you are one of the grantees who is budgeting money out for stipends, the stipend recipients page is still here. You will have to complete it still. You're going to choose the participant with the drop down that's listed under name. The participant list will populate that listing, and we ask that you list each stipend recipient only once on this page. Please don't list somebody once every month. We have had that issue with some of our other stipend programs, but you'll want to make sure that you list their stipend. If you've given them a stipend already, you check the box next to it. Obviously, if you're reporting it to us and we're a reimbursement model, you've already given them the stipend, so you will check that on all your participants. Enter the stipend cost for the month in that right-hand side corner. Save the page. Now, next month, if you give them an additional stipend, the cumulative cost will already show last month's in it. You just got to enter this month's in the stipend cost again. Okay, and then resave the page. Once you've completed that, if you have to add any participants or recipients for stipends, you hit the plus button, just like we've shown you on previous pages. That's ultimately it'll total up all your stipends at the bottom. And what we're checking for when we look at this is does your stipend recipients match what you've budgeted or billed us for currently when it comes to stipends? So you want to make sure that those things match and that you're providing us with all the details that we need in order to be able to reflect this activity report against your expenditure report. And always, 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 once again, make sure you're saving the page. The final page is my favorite page, because this is the page that I look at the most, is your dashboard page. This is probably your least favorite page, but it's my favorite. You want to make sure to complete the fields at the top, which would be your, I believe it's your program director, and then your comments section, which is going to tell us where your program is within the process of completion at this moment. This month, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. This is where what we're going to get accomplished, or what we got accomplished last month. We've moved the demographics from on the side to this next section. Now, this will pre-populate based on the information you entered on your participant list, but it will show you the demographics of your participants. Please check it, make sure it looks accurate. If you see anything that's inaccurate, notify us and we can have our vendor look into the issue. The next section is not really different. It just is a little wider. We separated it a little bit to make it make a little more sense to the eye. We also added the additional cycles. In the past, for whatever reason, we allowed you to have up to 6 cycles within the application, but the activity report only listed 3 cycles. We now have the activity report allowing you to have up to the 6 cycles that we allow you within the application as well. So you'll be able to list your cycles and their start and end dates, and then provide us with comments on a monthly basis. You'll notice there's a little red section in that comment section now. It tells you exactly what minimally information we need you to provide us with within that comment section if you have a cycle that's started. Please pay attention to that and enter that information monthly. Once you've completed entering all of the dashboard page required fields, make sure you hit save. The final thing you're going to want to do once you've completed all of the pages for within the activity report is to do a quick document validation, which is basically like an error check of your pages. It checks the pages to make sure that you don't have any issues that exist on a page still that you haven't completed. If it finds any, it'll list them here, and then you can go back to those pages and make the edits that are necessary in order to clear those errors. Next page. Once you've done that, you've completed all the pages, there's no more errors on any pages, you can submit your report. This is done by, once again, scrolling down on that left panel and finding status options and choosing the status of activity report submitted. Clear, hopefully, makes sense. Once you choose to submit your activity report, it'll prompt you to choose OK. You can enter a message if you'd like to, even if you just want to say hi, and click OK. Once you've clicked OK, that then submits your activity report to us for review, and we will start reviewing it. I will tell you, we tend to try to wait until both your activity report and your expenditure reports have both been submitted. Main reason being, we want to compare them to each other and make sure they make sense, make sure that there's nothing missing, make sure that we don't need to reach out to you and ask any questions. So if you complete your activity report, but somebody else within your company or your organization completes the expenditure reports, you may want to let them know that you've submitted yours and see if they can get theirs submitted as soon as possible. Or vice versa. If you complete the expenditure reports and somebody's not done the activity report yet, we will not approve expenditures without receipt of activity reports, just so you know. Next page. So that was the activity reports. We're going to now move into the expenditure reports, which are much easier and um, many less pages. So once again, you will log into your application, scroll down to related documents on the left-hand panel, and click initiate a related document. Once you do that, under available documents, you'll click the drop down and you'll choose the month and year of the expenditure report that you're looking to complete. Obviously, you're going to do a January for your first one, which will be your December, January combined. Once you do that, you'll hit create. That will bring you to an agreement page where you'll have to decide on your fate and whether or not you want to stay as an employee for your company again. And you'll make that decision and you will either choose agree or decline and either go to work the next day or clean out your desk. Once you choose agree, it will bring you to the actual documents that need to be completed. It does create your expenditure report for the month, so you will be able to find it if you decide to just open it but not actually complete it under my tasks at this point. But if you decide to complete it, you'll notice there are only a few sections. First one being expenditure report. So first thing we'll expect you to do is click on that expenditure report. That will bring you into a report that looks similar to what you guys had in the past. It's not all that different. It's gonna break down your budget based on the way you submitted it and we approved it. And you will provide us with your expenditures for this reporting period. Um, you want to make sure that once you enter these amounts that your unexpended balance does not go negative. If your unexpended balance is a negative number, there's something wrong. And enter your expenditures for the month, save the page, and once you've saved the page, then you will move to the next step. The next step will be if this is not mandatory, but if you would like to provide us with any miscellaneous attachments, which would be documents that would detail exactly what it is you billed us for, you have the right to provide them to us here. You will choose, you'll hit the select button and choose the document that you want to upload, or you can drag it into the box next to it. And you will type into the description box exactly what it is that you've uploaded. Once you've done that, make sure you click save. The final page that you'll have to complete is your payment voucher. This seems like the silliest form, but it's actually the most important because without it, you don't get paid. So you want to come to this page, check and make sure that what it lists that you're billing towards is correct. You're going to notice something a little bit different on your payment voucher this year. You're going to see two separate line items. One's going to say we owe it's not gonna say we owe a youth, which is what that says, but it'll say, I think we owe a traditional or I mean workforce development traditional, and the other one will say workforce development youth transitions to work. If let's say you build us for $100,000, it's going to show 50,000 in each column. It splits it evenly. It's just because of where the funding comes from within our organization. Don't get confused by it. Just pay attention to the total amount and make sure that it equals what it is that you said this month's billing was. If you check and see that, you can check the payee declaration that declares that you've checked and certify that this is the correct amount. You can enter any description notes that you'd like to provide, and you want to make sure that you save the page. Once you've saved the page, then you can move on to the next step. The next step is the process for submitting your expenditure report to us for review. This can be done by scrolling down on that left side panel to status options once again, and choosing the status of expenditure report submitted / review required. That will prompt you to choose either OK or cancel once again. It's just trying to make sure that you're sure you want to submit it. If you're sure, click OK, and that will submit it to us. Once again, if you'd like to leave us with a nice little note, feel free to do so. So once both reports are submitted for the month, you're done until next month. These user guides that we just went through, we'll provide them to you to have for yourself. We also recorded this meeting, so I'm going to have them upload it to our, I believe it's a YouTube page, which is hilarious. It'll be the only YouTube I'm ever in, and we will provide that video to you if need be. Let us know if you want it to have it for other staff members that maybe could not participate. In the meantime, though, I'd like to open it up for any questions, comments, concerns. You can either put it in the chat, raise your hand, just unmute yourself, whatever way works best for you.
Question,
Sure.
are the payments going to be not sent out till everyone gets theirs in, or are they going to be sent out as they come in?
As they come in. Yeah, we don't wait for everybody when it comes to payments or activity reports. We review them and approve them in our unit, and then they go to our fiscal department. I can't promise you how they're going to do it because obviously they're a different department, but they tend to do them in order of receipt. And so if they're there, they do them as a batch, but they don't necessarily wait for a specific time frame for that batch. They might do their batch every day, as far as I know, but they do it as a batch. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Anybody that don't like my bad jokes?
I like your jokes, Bill.
Thanks, David. You're going to notice a couple of new faces in some of our meetings. David Spector, who you all know from previous times, is back joining us for a 6-month. I don't know exactly what to call it, but he's joining us for the next 6 months to assist us with things. We're trying to make sure we have enough staff in order to provide you guys with these types of wonderful trainings, but at the same time, keep up with the work and make sure you get paid and all your reports get approved. So David's coming back and helping us out a little bit. We also have another staff member, Wendell Thomas, who's joining us as well. So we will introduce them to you guys as we move forward. But, the goal here is to really just make sure we have staff available to help you guys whenever necessary.
Hello.
That was Wendell, I think. We heard you, but you sounded like you were in a bubble.
Hello.
Is that you, Wendell?
Yep.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
Okay. So if we don't have any other questions or any other concerns, what I'll ask from you now is for all of you, I'll have Lauren email you when we get done with this call, anybody who's ready to get their contract pages signed off on. If you're ready, please get that process started as soon as possible and get that submitted to us so that we can make it to where you can start your activity and expenditure reports. For those of you that we've spoken to that have a couple of concerns, not concerns necessarily, but some things that you were still completing, make sure you're keeping in touch with Lauren and letting her know where you are with that process. Once she's ready for you to sign off on them, she'll shoot you an email and tell you so that you can follow the guidelines that we just went over for contract submittal. like I said, once those contracts are submitted, you guys can start your activity and expenditure reports right away. They're ready to go. Just, please try to be mindful of getting those contracts signed off on and submitted to us so that we don't hold you guys up any more than we already have. Okay? In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us today. If any questions come up and you need any assistance on anything, please always feel free to reach out to us at the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address. I'm going to put it in our chat real quick just so that it's there. And I hope everybody has a good day.